In this episode of the IT Experts podcast, we're going to help you go from chaos to clarity and work out how to build a high-performing team. Welcome to the IT Experts podcast, the only podcast to help MSPs scale to 1 million, and if already there, get to 5 and go faster. At the end of the day, isn't it all about building a business that works for you rather than you for it? I hope you enjoy the show. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the IT Experts podcast. We have got an incredible treat for you today. You're not just going to get one listen to this show, you are going to get two listens because number one, we have got an MSP leadership power panel that you can see in action at the MSP show on the 14th of May in London. And what I thought I'd do is I'd get these amazing, incredible experts together and we can have a conversation on the podcast to find out how to build an amazing high-performing technical team. So we've got some great leadership experts here. We've got Phylip Morgan from Pax8. We've got Julie Hutchison from the MSP Growth Hub, and we've got Zoe Chatley from the Channel Recruiter. Good morning, everybody. I'm not sure how this is going to work because we've got 2.5 people on the podcast at the minute, one joining in a little bit later. So before we get going, today we're going to help uncover some of the biggest myths and some of the issues around leadership, this real problem that many MSPs, because they're mostly technical, have when it comes to building a high-performing technical team. And we've got a real power panel with you to hear today. So Zoe, very quickly introduce yourself. Who are you, what do you do, and who do you help?
So thank you very much, Ian. I'm Zoe Chatley. I'm the Managing Director and owner of the Channel Recruiter. We are an IT channel specific recruitment agency. So we work solely with IT vendors, distributors, resellers and MSPs. And we hire everything from sales, marketing, commercial, technical, you name it, as long as it's in that industry. But we've got a lot of experience building sales teams, leadership teams, and beyond. So hopefully I can add some good value to today's call.
I'm sure you will. Thank you very much for that. Julie, who are you? What do you do? And who do you help?
Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Hutchison, and my company's called Think Be Do Leadership, but I also do a lot of work inside the MSP Growth Hub with all of Ian and Stuart's wonderful businesses that they work with. And I am very much into helping the leaders to show up in the way they need to show up so that their teams want to do the things that they want them to do with a smile on their face, let's say. And so how do you need to show up as a leader so that people are or they can do what you want them to do, they want to do it, and they know which direction that you're going in so they can make good decisions in your business. That's really so important in IT businesses, definitely, I would say.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Julie. Phil, who are you? Who do you help? And what do you do?
So I'm Phylip Morgan from Pax8. I'm a 37 this November, a 37-year veteran of the tech channel. Former MSP owner, set up various business, but today my life is spent taking the vision of Pax8 forward. I'm the former Chief Revenue Officer of Pax8 EMEA, but for the last 18 months I've been working in the AI space as we've been moving our employees from being knowledge workers to intelligence architects using all of the AI tools that are in the market. So that's what I do today.
Otherwise known as been in your happy place, I think that's called, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't do anything anymore unless I'm in my happy place. Don't ever do a job that you dislike.
I love it. Absolutely love it, Phil. Well, look, this is the power panel. These are the experts that we're going to see on the 14th of May in London at the MSP show. So please come along and meet up. But Phil, I'm going to start off with you and something you just mentioned there about being visionary. We talk a lot, with MSPs about, having the vision, having the big mission, what you're trying to create and the values in the business. And a lot of people just kind of like shun it and go, oh, that's just big for the corporate people. Don't need to worry about that with small businesses. We know that's wrong. We know that as soon as you have to have that vision and driving that forwards. But what does an MSP owner look like before they have that kind of vision? What does, to try and resonate with the audience here, what does, before they have that direction, what does life look like?
Well, I'm not sure if it's possible to even not have vision, right? As part of the kind of life forms on this planet, we have eyes that are in the front of our head, the shortest kind of vision of most of creation. And I think that's because we're designed to go forward, right? And I think if you think about vision or leadership, right, it's about going from here, this is where we are today, and going to there. And in order to go from here to there, that is the essence of vision, and leadership is what gets you from here to there. So I think in whatever business we find ourselves, or just life, right, we have to go from here to there because we can't stand still.
Yeah.
So that requires all of these kind of big things that maybe we'll talk about in detail again in terms of change management and everything. But everybody wants clarity on where there is, whether that's government, whether that's running a company, or whether that's for our own individual lives. We really have to be clear about moving from here to there and what does it look like. And in my experience, and you do a lot of this in the MSP hub, right? There's a lot of woolliness, particularly in some business leaders and some smaller business owners, that all of what it looks like to move from here to there is in the founder's head and nowhere else.
Yeah.
And that's what creates problems and misunderstanding and a lack of clarity then. So vision is really the embodiment of moving from here to there.
And so what would you say to an MSP owner if they came up to you, or you found out that they just sort of said, look, I've been doing this for 15 years, I just do what I need to do and I just like to carry on. But I know one day I'll probably need to sell the business and, I'm kind of doing all right. If you were to sell vision, if you were standing there at a car boot sale selling vision, what would be the main benefits to this owner to reignite and to add that energy?
Well, I think for them and their families and where they are right now, they already have like a vision for the future, right? Maybe because they're not going to be working when they're 96. Maybe some of them are. Okay. But they have a vision for them and their family or whatever, that they maybe want to retire or want somebody else to come and do a management buyout. I don't know what it is. But in my experience, what I affectionately call ABOs, accidental business owners, right? They never set out to do this. They just love tech and got involved in doing it. And before they know it, they've got customers and they've got employees and they're, oh my gosh, how do I organize all of this? But I go back to first things first, which is, hey, what is your vision? Where do you want to be 5-10 years or whatever from now? If you want to retire at 55 or 60 or whatever it is, well, what does that look like? And build back from that. That's what vision is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Julie and Zoe, I'm going to come to you next on this one here. So Julie, you see, we don't use this word lightly, but you have helped us transform so many people, leaders who have either come into the Growth Hub or come into the world scared and left confident. And personal vision is something that we talk about quite a lot. And I know that you're, a massive advocate, and there's tons of little tools and tips and tricks with this. Again, if we handed over to you this leader who was a little bit scared and a little bit kind of like tentative, maybe not as confident as they should have been, where would you start with helping them to, as Phil says, get more out of life and do stuff you enjoy?
I think I love what Phil said, actually. I wrote a little note. I put, the problem is the vision is blurred. You said that everybody has a vision. And I almost, because I'm that kind of girl, I was like, oh no, I don't agree with that. But actually I do agree with it. It's just that I think the vision is blurred. And so like, Ian, when you're saying like, well, how do people get the best out of things? I think is they have to stop for long enough off that hamster wheel and go like, what do I mean? And I want to retire sometime, or I want to sell my business. That's not clear enough. That's just a little bit of a in the air somewhere, like actually, what do you really want? When do you want to retire? How much do you want to retire on? How much do you want your business to be? Because unless you stop and really ask yourself from a really deep place, and I think this is the problem, it's like, what do you really want? And people don't want to do that because it's in the too hard box. So we make them do that in the Growth Hub, don't we? But like, unless you stop and do that, then everything is so woolly that nobody can come with you. You can't even get there yourself. You just go around, it's like a roundabout, and you go around a roundabout, round and round and round, because you haven't got a clear idea of which one you want to get off at. And I think that the biggest thing that you need to do is to just stop and say, okay, what does it actually look like? So like, I want to retire by 50. Well, for example, it's no good for me because I'm 55, but like, I want to retire by 50, let's say. I'm assuming that a lot of them are younger than me. And I need this much money. I want to do this with my employees. I want to do this, whatever the thing is. But really being clear, because once it's clear, then you actually do feel like you know how to get, like Phil said, from here to here, because you actually know where here is, not just some little puff in the sky, but all right, okay. And once you know exactly that, you're like, well, what are the steps for that then? Mm-hmm. And that makes it much, much clearer. And I think what happens a lot of the time is until we get to that point of the clarity, we are just going around in a circle, because yes, we've got this vision somewhere on the bank, thing for the bank or something like that. But like really what we've got is not that. And that's why people just do go around in this little circle of just doing, because they're like, well, I don't know which way to get off this roundabout. So they don't get off. So I think that would be the thing I would be like, this is why you need to do it. This is what you need to do, which is sit down and get a proper piece of paper and ask yourself, what do you really want? And then people can come with you. And if they don't want to come with you, they can make that choice too. But at that point, Zoe will probably recruit the right person because they want to go in the same direction. And, we'd all be like, right, everybody agreed, we're all going. I often say, when we're going on holiday, we ask, where are we going? That's the first question. And if you don't want to go skiing because you don't like skiing and you want to go to Barbados, don't get on the bus. And so everybody can come with you and you want to go there. So you're much more likely to take the steps that you need to take along that line.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Julie. And I think what I heard there was quality time to stop and think, and reflect, and just to kind of like just to figure it out, what it is that you want to do. Zoe, you've got massive experience in not only recruiting, but in how people behave and do the right things and don't do the right things and kind of that sort of stuff. How does vision ever come up in any conversations when you're working with a new MSP? Is it something that they've even thought about before, or there must be some future planning on, well, what does the plan? Because some MSPs must just go, I just need some techs. Zoe, I'm just busy. I just need some people to put some boots on the ground, please. Just do that. Does this conversation come up in your world?
All the time. And actually, as I was listening to both of you then, I can relate to so much of that myself as a small business owner as well. The first couple of years I started my business, I did not have a vision. And we snowballed and we hired, drastically, and we weren't really thinking about what we were doing or what we were hiring. And I see a lot of that with a lot of the small businesses, or, whether it be MSPs or even distributors actually that we've worked with that are small and have got this sort of aim to be big and bold and be out there, but they don't know how to get there. And I do think it takes time before you figure out what your vision is. I remember somebody saying to me, what's your vision for the channel recruiter? And I was like, I have not got a clue. I don't know. I just didn't know. And even last week, I had to really think about what it was. And, when we sit down with MSPs and, we say, what's your goal for the business? Why are you recruiting these sales positions? Because we need to know what their why is. Do they know why they're recruiting? Is it just purely revenue, or are they trying to do something a bit more with it? And what you tend to see before they figure things out is high retention, a lot of churn. But I think interestingly, and what's good, is a lot of mistakes are made. But that's really, really important that they make those mistakes because they learn from them. And you're not going to go from here to there unless you start making mistakes along the way and start figuring out what you're trying to do. And I think some of what we do in terms of helping them to build their teams is to actually help them figure that out and figure out what works and what doesn't before they get to that end goal.
Love it. Absolutely love that. I mean, look at that. What a great conversation to kick this podcast off with. This podcast could be going for probably 2 to 3 hours. We're not going to make that happen. This is going to be a short, sharp
I need
blast.
more tea.
Just you need more tea, and then that'll lean on to something else. And that's why we wanted just to get everybody together to talk about some of the key points about this building your high performing team. Julie, I'm going to come to you now to the subject that I absolutely love when every single time you talk about this: accountability and difficult conversations. You have this incredible knack to help somebody who potentially might be a little bit nervous about having difficult conversations, letting people get away with things because I don't know how to talk with them and stuff like that. Just real high level at the minute, accountability is so key in every business leader's toolbox, but it's missing so much of the time, isn't it? And I know that kind of goes back to the vision a little bit about what we do and how do we kind of like measure it. But, from an accountability point of view, what do you see and what are some of the big shifts that you see when people do start to be accountable and I guess get out of their own way, right?
When you say accountable, do you mean that you want your team to be accountable for the things that you would love them to do? As in, like, as a leader, I've asked them to do something and they get on and do it?
Yeah, I mean, it could either be that or the major accountability for the whole business. But let's go with the team at the moment because this is about the team. So, let's lean in on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that the ability of the team to be accountable is basically whether or not you've set them up to succeed in the first place, number one. Because I believe, and Zoe, I hope you believe this as well, I'm sure you do, Phil, that most people come to work wanting to do a good job, And so I think that we either set them up to succeed or we set them up to fail as leaders. And I mean, I always talk about like the can't, won't, don't framework that I talk about. And they're like, they either can't do it or they won't do it or they darn well don't do it. Okay. I can't do it because I don't have the skill or the confidence to make a good decision or do the thing. Right? But I won't do it because I won't do it for you, because something is wrong with the relationship. And don't do is that I don't want to go where you just told me your vision is. Okay. So I choose not to, or I have no idea because you haven't even told me, which is what we were just talking about. Okay. So we can't have a team that are accountable if they don't know where you're going. They can't be accountable if you haven't given them the skill. They can't. So we need to make that sure that's a can, and we need to coach them, because it's not just about, do I have the physical skill to do something? It's, do I have the confidence to make good decisions in your business? And the only way I'm going to do that is if I know, like we said, where we're going, but also the guide rails in which you want me to actually do. So if we haven't set up the KPIs, we haven't set up the guide rails of what good looks like, then nobody can be accountable, because they're just going to do the best they think they can, I think. So as leaders, we have to make sure that they understand that, and that we have set them up to succeed. So we're coaching them to be able to be confident enough to make good decisions in the business. And that means that we have to change, because when you get a small business that starts growing with a team, that leader has to change the way they show up. Because previously, and Zoe, you talked about you having a small business, you probably experienced this, and Philip, probably yours is probably bigger now, you've probably forgotten this, but like you were doing everything before. And Philip, you earlier on said, oh, I know, I only do what I like. Yeah, now. But that isn't the case when you first start a business. So you have to move from that doing everything to this, what do I think I give best value at? And therefore everybody else can do, so I can delegate it. So in order to make people accountable and have a business that's accountable for it, is to make sure that everybody knows what their role is, and that I'm not trying to do every single role and trying to step on everybody's toes. So I have to set them up to succeed and coach them and trust them and allow them to make those mistakes that Zoe was talking about, but within the guide rails of the vision and then the KPIs that I've set. Because if I do that, then at least I'm not just like abdicating all responsibility for the things I don't fancy, but I'm saying, this is yours. This is what good looks like. This is where we're going. This is how to make a good decision in the business. Now I'm going to support you with that. And I want you to want to be in the room with me. So that's my won't, that's why, like I want to, and you know where we're going. So let's get on it. And that creates people who are willing to make or take a risk, let's say, or make a decision, even when you're not in the room, or even when you're on holiday on the beach. Because they're like, oh, well, I know that, like Philip said, that this is what we're doing, this is where we're going. And I know that he said that this is my responsibility because he doesn't do this thing, whatever it might be. And I know what good looks like. So what would he want me to do? Oh, I think that's the decision he would want. And that's how you create accountability. Because if I know what my KPIs are, I know I've got to get 20 of them or whatever the thing is, and I know how the business owner would like me to do it, then that leaves room for me to make some good decisions inside those guide rails, because they're going to leave me alone. Brilliant. Now, if you don't leave your people alone, just for anybody listening, then this will all fall apart, because they'll get really fed up with you because you keep poking your nose in. But that's the point. I need enough room to make the decisions, but enough guidance to know what the right decision should be.
Love it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Love it.
Hey, just a quick one from me for everybody that's listening. Stuart here. If you're serious about growing your MSP, but you're not sure what helps right for you, then just grab our Ultimate MSP Growth Guide. It's a really simple way to check out what's out there for support that could really help you work. There's no fluff, there's no filler, just facts. Or alternatively, if you want to meet us face to face and see how we do things up close, come along to one of our events. They're regularly put on. They're all in the links below. Go check them out. And now it's back to the show.
Thanks, Stuart. Phil, shadow of the leader, how you show up, you've got and had some really powerful teams across the world in multidisciplines and different places and different cultures and languages and everything. What's some of the go-to tools that you use to make sure that we've got this accountability? That's kind of like the 101, but then we've got engagement, we've got culture, we've got energy, we've got connection and all of that kind of stuff. What are some of the power tools that you use to make sure that you stick all of this together?
And do you know what? I've loved listening to Zoe and Julie there as well, because we're all aligned on this thing, right? Which is the clarity of what's required from an organization as it moves forward over what good looks like. So some of the listeners might be familiar with the Gallup 12 questions. I'm a huge, huge fan, particularly of the first 3 questions. I think you can forget all the others. If you do the first 3, they're crucial. You know, when someone applies for a job, or back to the work that Zoe's doing in kind of matching people with organizations to make sure that they're right, fundamentally it comes down to matching the CV with the job description, right? So that's putting hopefully the square peg in the square hole. If that doesn't match up CV to job description, that what ends up with that phrase that we say, they're a square peg in a round hole, right? Okay, so we want things to fit. If we want them to fit, Gallup question number 1 says, I know what's expected of me at work. And most times when I talk to people that are unhappy in their work, or there's stress and stuff going on, I say, oh, the week that I've had, I say to them, okay, right, you know, what happened? And usually it's a misalignment from what they were hired to do to what they are actually doing. The job description doesn't line up with expectation. And what I say to people, KPIs, people hate the word KPIs. They're the most freeing thing in the world. And the reason I think they're the most freeing thing in the world, if I know my top 3 KPIs and I'm aligned with the organization and my line manager and the team, if I know my top 3 and they know my top 3, it makes sure that the expectation that I'm not going to be measured by something that wasn't expected of me. So for example, good example of the brain of Phil Morgan, please keep me away from spreadsheets. I hate the darn things, okay? Too much detail. I can't even spell pivot table. But there are people on my team that are incredible. Oh, let me have that spreadsheet, they say. All right? Okay. So Gallup question number 1, I know what's expected of me at work. Nobody on my team expects me to be doing spreadsheets, because I put my hand up in the meeting and say, I ain't doing that spreadsheet. And most people are saying, no, we'll save ourselves as a team from that pain, because we know that Phil is not good with a spreadsheet either. Okay. Secondly, I have the materials and equipment to do what I need to do. So even whatever it is, if your laptop isn't working and you have to wait 10 minutes for it to boot up, right? We have to create a great environment for people to work as well. And then that's what I think leads to the answer in the Gallup question 3. And I know these off by heart, so forgive me, but I've made it part of how I lead, which is if we can do those things, we give people the tools to do their very best work, and we are clear on the expectation, those top 3 KPIs, then it leads to the opportunity to do what I do best every day. And that's what I meant. Are there jobs that I do, Julie, that I don't love doing? Yeah, of course there are.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Okay. But 80% of the day, I get to be doing what I love. And that would be being in a meeting, being creative with people, trying to kind of fix big problems. That's kind of what we're doing here at Pax8 as we live out our vision to build the digital workforce of the future for MSPs, right? So as we are clear about our true north and where we're heading, we break it down to the sum of the parts to bring real clarity. And what I observe, Ian, when I'm talking to business owners, there's normally a frustration, which is, oh, I can't get the staff. And more often than not, it's not a problem with the staff. It's a problem with the lack of clarity with the team. That are you being really clear of what's expected from them at work today, so that when they leave, they know they've done a good job? And secondly, how would you measure that? The measurements is the key piece.
That's the thing about setting people up to fail. Quite often we miss all of that. And if we just do that, then we are setting them up to succeed. We're giving them the best chance of actually doing a good job for us.
I agree, Julie. And setting them up to fail, okay, is us not being clear about the task. And then back to the question that was posed to Zoe in the first place. How can I keep you accountable to something that's not a shared accountability?
that I haven't told you about even.
If it's in my head, and Zoe and I are working on a project, and if it's in my head, Zoe, and I haven't said to you, okay, so we're going to get this done, yeah, by when? What does that look like? Okay, and what do you need from me? If there's no clarity, then I cannot keep you accountable to delivering a project by the, 23rd of March, if there wasn't clarity. And I think when it comes back to communication, and people say this often, oh, well, my boss is not clear on things. Well, I don't really care if your boss is not clear on things. As an employee or as a contributor, you are allowed to ask for clarity. Use that as something that works for you. So if you can create an accountable place where you're working by really being clear and asking. So if the boss is saying, I want you to do that and that, you say, okay, what does that look like? And by when? And is that acceptable? And I need these tools to make it happen. So I think clarity is a upward thing as well as a downward thing, right?
Love it. Absolutely love it. And if we only had a recruitment expert in the podcast who could answer the questions like, how do we find the right people in the right role and set those expectations up, Phil, that would really help complete, wouldn't it? It would. Zoe?
No pressure.
Go for it. What's your kind of view on what Phil's just said there, which is just absolute gold?
Yeah, and listening to both you and Julie, there's so many amazing points there about both, because with Julie, with some of what you were saying, I was thinking about, we teach a lot of our clients about employment branding, and that's not just the outlook, it's about getting candidates bought in to your vision so that they really truly believe and trust that, they're coming into a business that they are going to be able to meet those expectations, perform well, but also that they're getting something out of it as well. And I think that comes down to accountability on all fronts. So, I've worked with MSPs there's one particular that we work with in the West Midlands, and they're really small, they're growing, and he's churning through staff. And I think it's because at the start he wasn't clear about what his vision was, and he didn't know what he wanted. So he was just hiring rampantly. And then his retention, the churn of people he was losing people left, right and centre. It wasn't until he really sort of set that vision initially, what we first spoke about, that he could truly take accountability for what he wanted his business to achieve. And therefore, once he knew that, he could then hire the right people. I've probably gone off piece a little bit there, but there were just so many little bits then. But I think when you're hiring, you've got to look at what you can give your staff as well in order to help retain them as well, because it's not all just about KPIs, is it? It's great if they're performing that, but they've got to be brought into what they're selling, what they're doing, and who they work for, the business, the brand, everything. There's so many little bits that come into it. And I think if you can hire a continuous pipeline of staff that are then brought into it, not only are you then securing your staff in your business for the future, you can look at hiring people that can one day be future leaders. You can then look at a continuous churn of revenue that builds up. If you're losing staff left, right, and centre, you're never going to have a continuous pipeline of revenue coming into the business, especially with salespeople. So hire for strength rather than need. I think that's really key there. So hiring people that can add value to your business in different areas. I don't know if I fully answered the question there, by the way. I probably went off on a bit of a tangent, but I think hiring for strength rather than need is such a key thing. And I think it's where a lot of leaders sometimes go wrong, especially in those early days. I don't know, Phil, if you've experienced this at all, but I know I've hired people that haven't worked out, but I've learned from them and where we needed to go. And now I know the people that I'm hiring for those strengths that they can bring to the business that allows me to do what I do well and where I'm strong at. And I see that with other MSPs as well. They can eventually have people in the business that are really, really good at what they do. That allows their leader then to do what they're really good at. And all together, they become this really good unit and team. And ultimately, I think that's what will help that business grow, retain staff, and hopefully build for the future.
So Zoe, why do they get it? Why do they often get it so wrong, though? You know, that MSP that you were referring to there by means of illustration just now? Because let's say the four of us wanted to go out for a meal tonight. We're in a random city in Europe. We would just go online and we'd say, what are we going to have? And we'd maybe pick some culinary delight from across the world that we would want. even if we decide to, let's go Ethiopian tonight, right? So we're going, search an Ethiopian restaurant, up it comes. The first thing we do is go and have a look at their website, look at the vibe, look at how they're serving, look at the reviews and everything, before we make a decision of whether we're even going to step foot inside that restaurant, right? And that's just whether we're making those kind of choices before even deciding to spend 2 hours, let alone take a job at a place. Why is it that MSPs don't spend enough time building what their business looks like from the outside so they can attract the right kind of talent? Why do you think that is?
That's such a good question. And I think I could probably go on so many different points with this. I think one, it's expectation of themselves and their business and the people that they're hiring, and whether they're realistic expectations as well. So, when you're recruiting, how often do you sit and look at a CV? And really, a candidate can put anything possibly down on a CV, but it isn't until you actually get them in front of you that you truly get to start to know the person. And let's be honest, it isn't until they're actually working for you that you truly know that individual and what they're like. How many salespeople do you interview and you think, bloody hell, they're a really good salesperson? But are they just really good at interviewing? Because we all know people that are bloody good at interviewing, but when you get them in, there's actually no substance behind what they actually do. And unfortunately, with recruiting, sometimes it is a bit of trial and error. And, the more experienced we are at hiring people, the better we are at judging people in terms of being a good judgment of character and what they've done. We can get references. We can look at, past employment. We can look at how often they jump from A to B, from this, from job to job to job. And, how many times do we reject people because they don't last more than 18 months, 2 years in a business? We've all done it. We make that judgment on that person's CV before they even meet with us for that interview.
Yeah.
But I think what we have to do as leaders is when we are screening, again, it comes back to making mistakes, doesn't it? Learning from past mistakes, learning from the people that we're hiring. Look at the individuals that you've got in your team that are really bloody good. I use bloody a lot. I'm sorry, I'm using that word a lot. But look at those people that are really, really good. Why are they good at what they do? What are the characteristics of those individuals? Now, if you look back at that restaurant idea that you said at the start there, you don't know until you try the food whether it's any good. You don't know until you try the service whether it's any good. And unfortunately, you don't know whether the individuals you're hiring are truly good at what they do until they start working for you. You trust that they are going to be everything they said they're going to be. But I think the more experience you've got at hiring individuals and the more mistakes you've made and what you've learned will allow you to become a better judge of character. And sometimes you will get it wrong. But a lot of the time, the more experience you've got, the more you will get that right. But it is that trial and tested. And that's where recruiters come in, because, ultimately we have to screen, we have to find these individuals, we have to screen the bloody life out of them and trust they're going to interview well and be bloody good at what they do. Because there's one thing as a recruiter we hate, and that's having to replace somebody that hasn't worked out. I put a lot of, not pressure, but part of the values that I have as a recruiter and the morals that we have is making sure that the people that we place into our clients' businesses stay there and they do a really good job and they progress within that business. And that also comes down to the person that is hiring them as well. You want our candidates to be trust in us to place them in a good business in front of a good leader. So it comes from both directions, but ultimately you've got to get them in front of them, and then you've got to test them out and see what they're like. Probation periods, that's what they're there for.
Amazing. Team, we could be talking for a long time on this. We've only just scratched the surface and not covered as much as I wish to cover, but absolute gold. So come and see us at the MSP show on the 14th of May, 11 o'clock. We're going to have a really different experience in terms of an expert panel. Zoe, give us your final thoughts on today's show.
I've really enjoyed it. I think we could have talked so much more and gone into so much more detail. I thought all of us came up with such brilliant golden bits of information that I think MSPs will find so, so useful, whether they're starting out midway through their journey or coming to the end and looking to maybe retire, sell, whatever it might be. There is so much good good nuggets of gold here. So I hope everybody has enjoyed today, and thank you very much for having me.
No
And great
problem.
to meet you both as well, and see you again, Phil. And yeah,
No
I
problem.
look forward to seeing you all in May.
Good stuff. Well, we're going to put everybody's links in the show notes. So connect with us all on LinkedIn, and then you can see exactly what's kind of going on, and then we'll see you then. Julie, final thoughts from yourself on this very fast power panel?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is like stop for a second and really decide, where are you taking your business? Where do you really want to do? What is that? What does it really look like? And get some very specific information for yourself. And then, as Phil said, we're only doing A to B. That's all we need to do. And let's just really simplify down what we're talking about as being a leader in your business and go for that, because then people can follow you. Because if they want to come to be with you, they'll come. And if you're a good person, they'll come. That's my thought.
Thank you, Julie. Phil, last but not least.
Oh, well, I'm going to leave with a quote that from the conversations that I've had today, I'm reminded once again by the legend that was Zig Ziglar. That one of his favorite quotes is, there's only three types of people in life: those that make things happen, those that watch things happen, and those that wonder what the heck just happened. So I would like to think that the ones that are showing up and being part of the MSP show are the ones that want to come, want to learn, want to get better, and want to ask themselves the deep, hard questions, as Julie says, which is, hey, what do I need to do to move my organization and my own life forward today? And that's hard work.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you, everybody, for your time today. I now have absolutely no idea how the session's going to go when we get there, because we know that there's so much to talk about. So there's a lot of work to do to try and herd the cats and get everything all in. But I'm sure it'll be an absolutely incredible session anyway. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you there. You take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
And in next week's episode, we've probably got some free cash for you. We've got Jack Davis from PSS Tax. Really great conversation around the changes to R&D tax credits, what you can actually get, what you can't get, how the process works. So if you've been thinking about doing it and you haven't done it quite yet, then go and have a look, because it could be a right fit for your MSP. Check it out next week. Oh, but one last thing just before you shoot off. And if you're curious about how this episode links with the ability to scale your MSP to $1 million, or if you're already there, accelerate to 5, then we want to invite you to come and take the MSP Mastery Quiz. And in just 3 minutes, you're going to get a 360-degree scan of your business, where you can identify the 1 or 2 tactics that can help you find more time, engage and align your people, and help generate more leads in your MSP. It's really simple. Just click on the link in the show notes. And if you have enjoyed this episode, we'd love to get some feedback from you by means of a rating, review on Spotify or iTunes or your podcast platform of choice. We really appreciate every single one of them. Now you can go and enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to catching up and connecting with you soon. All the best now.